Hello, it's me again. I've been asked to finish the story about the dances, but first I'm going to give you a little overview about where I've been and what I've done, and give a little feedback and a thank you to all the churches that welcomed me. I felt very loved and very well cared for throughout my time over the year. I apologize to those churches who invited me and I couldn't be there. We did the best we could. In January, though, I was sick and I couldn't make it. So to those people like Niagara, I regret that I wasn't able to make it. To the people that made, for example, the Vancouver Island Presbytery decided to meet me by Zoom. So thank you for doing that. Also wanted to mention that I visited 3 Indigenous groups. One was the Huu-ay-aht First Nation in Vancouver Island, the Chapaway First Nation in Treaty 4 Saskatchewan and Southern Saskatchewan, and then also visited Winnipeg for the missing and murdered Indigenous women, the landfill issue with 4 other women leaders of the Protestant churches. These were all very important meetings, important gatherings, especially the missing and murdered Indigenous women, but also the Huu-ay-aht First Nation, who were doing a ceremony, a coming-of-age ceremony for the young girls. And I look at it as a way of healing, considering what's happened at the landfill and what's happening to so many Indigenous women who go missing and murdered and some never found, that we're reclaiming the place of women in our societies. Our society, the women were once very important among our people. They had a high place in our societies, an important place. Honored as the gift givers, as the life givers of life. And they were very, this is important part of healing. I also apologized for the 2 residential schools, one at Port Alberni Residential School when I was at the Huu-ay-aht First Nation. As very good response to that. One of the leaders gave me his cedar hat and a feather, which is a very honorable thing, very important expression of thanks. He thought that it was a very important thing to do, that the person of the highest position in the Presbyterian Church would come and personally apologize for what happened to their people. But also at the Chapaway First Nation, where there was the women or elders and youth gathering, where the youth was, I think it was very significant because the youth said, one of the youth said, we're stopping this right now. All the pain and like first they shared just heartbreaking stories about what happened in their own families with abuse and all that stuff and alcoholism and all that stuff. But then now I understand now where my dad was coming from. I understood finally. And he said, let me start by saying I love my dad. And then went into that. And so there's this great healing going on. And, you know, this generational trauma is going to stop here with us. So we need you to pray for that, to pray for those that are trying hard to stop the trauma from continuing, for this kind of healing to happen in our communities. And also for the Huu-ay-aht First Nation, if you could pray for their work that they're doing with their women, and they're doing many other things for their healing as well. And for the missing and murdered Indigenous women, I just want to thank the church for the work that you have done in that. But I also ask you to keep on praying that no more of our girls will be lost. One of my cousins was lost. We never did find her. She was at a bingo game with her mom, went out to have a cigarette, and they've never seen her. It's a terrible, terrible thing to lose someone like that. So anyway, the other places I've been to, one of the things I asked for people to do was, can you put me in touch with Indigenous people in your area so that, you know, I have this, I'm hoping that I can meet people in Eastern Canada, because I've been interviewing elders, trying to bring back some of the culture, it's all part of the healing, part of the reconciliation, so that our elders' voices can be heard. Too many are dying too young. And so I'm trying to get some of those stories there and help our youth, help our young people to know who they are, for the elders to be able to leave their legacy behind. But also we're interviewing it as part of a documentary that we're working on. So asking that churches that I've been visiting, is it possible to introduce me to some of the people in your area? And some people were able to do that. I was very pleased that in Montreal that they had connections with First Nations people in the area. And I met about 12 elders there who said, yes, I will share with you when it's time. But others in Ontario, where I got most of my invitations, I'm happy to say, I think it was always Ontario presbyteries who were calling me 3 years in a row to say, will you let your name stand? And finally, the third year, I said, okay, do this one more time. And so I'm very honored by that. But then you guys got a lot of work to do, as I mentioned last night, because reaching out to the First Nations who live in your area, just being you, being caring the way you were cared for me and looked after me. Be a friend, be an advocate. Yeah, be the church. And I wish you, I'll be praying for you all, and not just Ontario, all across Canada. Of course it happens. It's not just Ontario. But I just noticed it here, and that because it's a large area with a lot of First Nations living here. So I'm grateful for the work that you are doing, but those things need to be taken care of as you are able. And I know that you have good hearts to do that. So I'm grateful for all the churches I attended, and just to mention a few, the church at St. Mary's, Armour Heights, St. Andrews, Newmarket, Knox, Oakville, St. Andrews and Owen Sound. The WMS had a great event just recently. We had a lot of fun there. And then there's also all the meetings I attended with the church, Assembly Council, LMA, and the PWS&D. That was very interesting because I never attended one of their meetings before. I learned a lot. I didn't know what it was all about, but now I have a much better idea what's going on in that department. Our international trip was to Cuba. We were originally going to be going to Israel, Palestine, but that didn't work out because a few days before we were supposed to leave for Israel, Palestine, the war broke out. So in a way, we were very pleased because we don't know what might have happened if we were there already. But yeah, there was also other places that I was invited, like Calgary and Edmonton. I want to say sorry I couldn't be there. I'm hoping I can still drop in and see some of you in your churches there in the summertime. I think that covers most of the places that I've been. Now, Montreal, and the colleges, Presbyterian College, Knox College, and St. Andrew's Hall. Thank you for your hospitality. I think that's, in Ottawa for the Residential School Monument site. That was in June of last year. Yeah, I think that if I've missed anybody, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to. But this is mostly the places where I've been to, and I've learned a lot. It's been a growing experience. It's been very stressful, the travel mostly, traveling so often, and then sometimes staying one night and then moving to the next place. Those kinds of things can be stressful. But I'm very pleased. In the end, I spent a lot more time in prayer than previous years. So I think I grew spiritually as well, and thanks to you, thanks to the church for that experience. And now, do I have time to finish my story about the dances? Okay. last night I talked about the traditional dance, the men's dance, and the traditional women's dance, the fancy dress dance of the women, for the women, which is a transformation dance, a butterfly dance, in other words. And the other one was the horse dance, the fancy dance, men's category dance. But there's also something called a jingle dress dance. You'll see these people who are dressed up with little jingles on their dresses. And people will go up to them, people that know about the dances will go and say, can you pray for so-and-so? Someone is sick or someone is needing prayer. So the story was that a man whose daughter was ill asked for a prayer dance. And I don't know how it came about, but he ended up making these little jingles on the dress in those days. I don't know if some of you are old enough to know that they used to have these snuff boxes, and at the top was a metal top on the snuff boxes, and so he apparently, created a little jingle out of that and attached these to the dresses, so that the idea that every time there's a jingle, it's a prayer, and that some of them had 375 jingles on their dresses, very heavy. But anyway, that was part of that. That was what is the jingle dress dance. Of course, now they're all manufactured and they're all very pretty and nice, and they don't dance with that much weight. But the others, and so that's one of the prayer dances. The other prayer dance is the grass dance, the men's grass dance, and it's when you start the powwow dance, and especially if you didn't have lawnmowers in those days, you would have these dancers that go out and press down on the grass, and they'd be the first ones blessing the ground for the other dancers to come. And so they're a prayer dance. They're blessing the ground for the other dancers. The other one, which is kind of humorous and in a way, but also sacred, is something that I learned when I was the student minister at Miss Tawas's. I got a call once from, I think, Gordon Haynes, and he said, can you host the some international visitors coming to Canada? So, okay, all right, we can try that. So I went around to the people in my community and asked the guys, okay, well, you guys go hunting and fishing and, get some traditional food, and we're going to have a great big feast out by the lake and cook food and feed our visitors, our international visitors. So they said, okay, and they got really excited about it, and they started dropping off fish and moose, and I said, no, you got to get your wife to cook it. I can't cook that stuff. Anyway, so they did, and we were out at the, we had a great big feast. But anyway, before that, I wanted to go hunting too. So I said to my uncle, Uncle, can you take me hunting? He said, well, we'll see. And a couple of days later, he goes, okay, we're going to take you to the dance hall. And I said, dance hall? He said, yep, you'll see. He said, you got to be up at 4 o'clock in the morning. So we go out at 4 o'clock in the morning, out to the field. And I said, okay, what's a dance hall? He said, well, these prairie chickens, they make little mounds, they clear an area. And around in the bush, in those little weeds, tall weeds, are all the females. He said, and they're watching these dancers. And so anyway, we're driving up. Don't slam the door on the truck. You got to go quietly. But we had also picked up my nephew, and he brought his friend. His friend, we call him White Man because he lives with us, and we adopted him as a brother. But the guy, Cree humor, they just call him White Man. So then he's come, but for some reason these guys brought their guns, and Uncle didn't tell them anything. We don't need guns, but they brought their guns, and so we're going along, and you get closer to the field where the chickens are, and at the top of the tree he said, he's the caller. This is the dance hall, and that tree up there, that bird is the caller, like in a square dance. They have a caller. So, okay, so we're going up, and all of a sudden, the white man, he goes, "Look at that stupid bird. He deserves to die." And his uncle, "No, no, no, no." Bang. He killed the caller. And he said, Uncle said, "That bird is a sacred bird. This bird gives up its life for the chickens. If a bird is stuck, if a bird can't get away, he will stay there and he will die before he'll keep on calling. He won't quit calling until everyone is safe." But that was an experience. White man learned a lesson that day, but he felt badly. So that's a chicken dance. But now also the funny part is a while later, after the international visitors came, we're on our way because we have these medical vans that take us back and forth to the cities to see the doctors and whatever. And one day there was something wrong with my car, so I decided to go with a medical van. And the medical van was the chief's wife. So I said, "Oh, Janet, what are you doing here?" She said, "Oh, I have to go. I have to look after them." Okay. And we're talking. I said, "So how did you meet Daryl?" She goes, "Oh, the chicken dance." So anyway, you understand, of course, because they're in the women are the ones that pick their mates. So by the way they dance. Yeah. Anyway, so that's the story of the days of the dances. So not everyone will know those stories. Not everyone who goes to powwow knows. So you know something more than some of them might if you remember what those dances are about. So I just thank you for listening. And I also want to just say an honor song. If someone says it's an honor song that we believe has been given to us by God for whatever reason. Sometimes it's because of our gifts that are recognized. My honor song was given to me by a Greek woman in a Cree class in Alberta, University of Alberta. And it gives thanks for the gifts of prayer, the gifts of song, and the gifts of dance. And then kind of prophetically, I eventually got into a ministry where we do the arts, cultural arts. We teach singing to the children, dancing, we do drama, and we have these festivals. So sometimes it's very important if someone talks about a honor song that they've been given. It's very special to them. So just a word about that. Does that take up my time? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So we do want to say just another word of thanks to Mary. It's been a learning experience, I think, for all of us. Again, I've worked with Mary for years, have learned a lot. And now to have her having been able to share that with the church at large, I think is very special. So we're very, very glad that you got elected moderator. Thank you so much.